Hey guys, welcome back to Ask CamDoc. My name's Shane and I'm a final year medical student and neuroscience supervisor at the University of Cambridge. And this is how best to approach the medical CV. Right, so let's get to it then. We've broken up how to approach the medical CV into three key steps. The first step is to essentially build your bucket CV. The second step is to condense the bucket CV. And the third step is approaching how you can go about developing your CV. Right, let's start with step one then, which is writing your bucket CV. So what do we mean by the bucket CV? The bucket CV is essentially every single thing that you have done in the past. So that can be even the smallest of things, like, for example, when you went back to secondary school and gave a talk about how you got into university and how you're finding medicine, or it can be a larger achievement like presenting at a conference, or a actual teaching position that you have maybe at the university itself, like for example if you're a neuroscience supervisor. So it's essentially a record of every single thing that you have done that's relevant to medicine, and you basically write that all down on your computer, possibly on a Word document, and you just keep a record of everything. It's a good reference point for you to refer back to, and it also becomes useful for step two. So step two is a process by which you condense down your bucket CV so that it fits in with the application you're making to a relevant job. For example, say an opportunity has arisen where you can apply to be a simulation training coordinator, or a teaching position like a supervision role or a supervisor role. So when something like that comes about, you go to your bucket CV, and then what you do is you condense it such that you pick out only the relevant experiences and achievements and skills to fit that application. For example, if you're applying to be a supervisor, you might pick all the teaching positions that you've held so far, as well as the teaching experiences that you have so far, and you put it together into a separate document, and that is your condensed CV that's relevant to the job which you're applying to, which is a supervisor role in this case. So what are the key things or key subheadings and subtitles that you should include in your CV? Now, this is something that a lot of people have differing opinions and points on, and that's okay. It doesn't matter if your CV style is slightly different to someone else's. So I'm just going to suggest what I do. When I'm applying for any job, I look at the bucket CV and I condense it down, and I include these subheadings. At the top, there's a summary, essentially a paragraph where I summarize myself and why I think I'm suitable for the job. So for example, if it's something like teaching, I say I have held a teaching position as a neuroscience supervisor, I've been passionate about teaching, blah, blah, and I also do global social media-based teaching through Ask CamDoc. Okay, so a couple of sentences just to set the scene for who I am and why I'm applying for a teaching position. So that's the first paragraph, a summary. And then after that, I talk about my educational achievements. So I talk about the most recent educational achievement that I have, which is, of course, the recent degree that I had. Include that, as well as all my other previous achievements, and it's done in a chronological order with my most recent achievement at the top. So like that, I have an education section, and then I have an employment section. Then I also have any research and publications, as well as extracurricular activities, positions of responsibility, and then I also include some achievements and prizes that I've been lucky enough to receive. So those were just examples of some subheadings that you could use when you're going about writing the CV, and look out for the post that we're releasing that details a little bit more systematic approach on how you might go about writing your CV, where I'll also include an example of my CV as well as the main subheadings that I use. So that brings us on to step three, which is possibly the most difficult step, and that is the step where you now develop your CV. And this is something that can be very overwhelming, particularly because, one, you don't know where to start, and two, you get bombarded with so many opportunities, you don't know which one to pick, which one to say yes to, which one to say no to. So we're going to suggest two exercises that you can do, which is going to help you out in terms of deciding what opportunities you should be going for and what opportunities you might turn down. So the first exercise is basically deciding what type of doctor you want to be. And several options out there. For example, you can be a medic, you can be a surgeon, you may want to go into medical education and you want to become a professor, a lecturer, etc. There are loads of different avenues that you can go down, and some people have a relatively firm idea even from the beginning what they want to do. For example, I know people who are very passionate about surgery and who wanted to be cardiothoracic surgeons for a very long time. And equally, I've known people who wanted to be a GP for a very long time or have always known that they want to do medicine. So if you're that type of person, then you might think about what skills could help you in terms of finally getting to that end point of either being a medic, a surgeon, a professor, etc. So obvious things like if you're interested in surgery and you want to be a surgeon, look out for opportunities to do with surgery. So for example, I want to be a plastic surgeon and I look out for any surgical skill workshops, for example, any microsurgery opportunities where the clinical school offers, through the Plastic Surgery Society, a opportunity for me to go and practice my microsurgery skills on a specimen. So I look out for opportunities like that and I apply when they arise. And similarly, if you're someone who's interested in medicine and you want to be a cardiologist, for example, look out for any conferences to do with cardiology, get involved in them, attend them, get involved in maybe any research that opportunities that are available, and just look out for all of those things. So that is just one way that you can go about developing your CV using what you currently feel you want to be in terms of a doctor, medic, surgeon, medical education leader like professor, etc. Another useful exercise that you could try out is essentially determining what type of medical student you are currently. So there are three categories that we've broken this down into. The first category is you're a medic who already knows what type of specialty you want to do. For example, you could be really passionate about cardiology or plastic surgery and you are dead set on doing that. If you are that type of person, cool, that's great. You already have a good idea. Then you can tailor your CV in order to match up to that specialty. So go to as many cardiology conferences as possible, get involved in research opportunities, which you can look out for by just watching out for any clinical school communications. There are loads of clinical school societies to do with cardiology that will offer opportunities like, oh, this conference is happening or this research project is going on, do you want to get involved, etc., etc. So you can tailor your CV to match up to that specialty that you're very interested in. Then there's a second category of medical student, which basically involves students that have a range of specialties that they're really interested in, but don't have a specific commitment to one just yet. So in that sense, be very broad about how you develop your CV. If you're someone who is interested in cardiothoracics, but also finds renal really interesting, get involved in both types of specialty related opportunities. Get involved in conferences to do with both of them, in research projects to do with both of them, expose yourself to those clinical experiences. So go to the cardiology ward or go to the renal ward and experience that in order to help you determine actually this specialty I like a little bit more, or this specialty is just that little bit better for this reason. So it can be a really good way for you to get a breadth of experience, but also will help you decide actually what you might really be interested in. So the third and final category of medical student is essentially what I was at the beginning of fourth year, and that is someone who had no idea what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be, and I was just clueless. So if you're that type of person, it puts you in a really awkward position because actually you don't really know how you should go about developing your CV. You don't know your passions yet. You don't know your interests firmly. As a result, what do? Do you just sit and not do anything, or do you do everything? My advice would be to essentially try out as many different things as possible in order to help you gauge actually what is it that you actually end up enjoying. So, for example, the first step that we have to decide is essentially, do we want to be a medic and go down the medicine route, or do we want to do surgery and go down the surgeon route? Um, and that obviously can change throughout your career, and that can even change, with clinical experiences. So don't be too worried if you don't have a firm opinion on anything yet. Just be open to trying out different things and just be very open-minded about it. So yeah, look out for those opportunities that do come up. And if something sounds a bit cool, apply for it, go for it, and see what it is that you actually end up enjoying. But don't stress out or worry if you don't have any firm interests or passions, because actually majority of the people in medical school, and actually even F1 and F2, don't really have a very firm idea of what they want to end up doing. And equally, a lot of people who have very firm ideas throughout medical school or throughout F1 completely change their mind throughout even medical school or their clinical training. So don't worry at all if you don't have any ideas. Just be very open-minded to trying out different opportunities. So that's been a quick summary of the three main steps that you need to follow in order to approach developing your CV. The first was to develop or write this bucket CV. The second is to refine the bucket CV to suit any relevant opportunities that you're applying to. And the last is basically providing you with 2 exercises to develop your CV in the best way possible to make you the best applicant or candidate for whatever thing you want to apply for. So hopefully you guys have found this very useful, and if you have, please like, follow and share. Make sure as many medical students as possible find out about us and what we're trying to do. But that's it from me for today, and I'll see you guys next time.